All right, guys. So we are here today with another 10-minute talk with Coach Caitlin here. And then we got who we got?
Coach Justin, as always.
Coach Justin. So last week, guys, we spoke about protein as one of the three macronutrients. So this week, we're going to get into fats, the other essential macronutrient. And just to give you like the basics on what fats are, like I said, fats are an essential nutrient that your body needs. It can't produce it on its own. So fats are a little bit different from carbs and fats, where fats are 9 calories per gram, as opposed to proteins and fats, or proteins and carbs, which are 4 calories per gram. Then you have your saturated fats and you have your unsaturated fats. And really, we want to get into why they are essential. So, Justin, why are fats essential for our body?
Sure. So fatty acids are compounds that make up our cell structure, right? So they're essential for, first of all, just proper cellular health. But beyond that, because of the functions of cells in our body, a lot of what we use them, or like what a lot of the importance we put on them as coaches is hormonal health, right? So we're going to have those. There's going to be a certain amount that every female and every male are going to need to support hormonal function. Obviously, that goes into supporting lots of other functions in the body as well. So essentially, how does it support the cell? Supporting hormonal function through that process. Plus, it's going to support digestion as well, which is why you have to be a little bit particular about which fats that you consume and how they sit with you digestively.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, if you're intaking too many of the not great fats, like we'll talk about like seed oils and trans fats, if you take in too many of those, it's just going to cause excessive inflammation in the body. And that excess inflammation is only going to lead to negative outcomes, chronic disease, and things that we really just don't want to deal with. Plus, if we're getting in a healthy amount of fats, guys, and that's going to look different for every single individual, we're going to have healthy hormone production, like Justin said. Your cell membrane is going to be able to take in nutrients correctly and expel waste correctly, but it's also going to help with energy as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like you said, our energy, the energy macronutrients that we talk about, carbohydrates and fats, are going to be broken down at different rates, obviously digested at different rates, and used in different energy systems, right? Whole different conversation, but essentially you do activities with higher amounts of intensity, probably going to be asking more for carbohydrates as fuel. Lower amounts of intensity over long periods of time, you're probably going to be a little bit more fat fueled, so to speak, right? Obviously, without getting too deep into the conversation, if you consume a large majority of your energy from fats and almost none from carbohydrates, that energy starts to come from ketone bodies, or ketones, that what is the popularity of the ketogenic diet, right? Not that that's a bad source of fuel. However, it comes with its own set of rules, basically, right? If you choose to fuel like that. The question I have though, Caitlin, is what if you were to give people kind of a short list of where you get the good fats from, right? Where you get the healthy fats from, what would be on that list for you?
Yeah. So right away, I think of like olive oil. I think of things like grass-fed butter. I think of fats that you get from animals, right? So like the fat from the egg yolk, the fat from like your fattier cuts of meat, like beef and chicken thighs and steaks. I always like to say you want to avoid any sort of seed oil, canola oils, things like that, because they are just very processed and again can cause excessive inflammation in the body. But as far as yourself, Justin, where are you getting the majority of your fats from?
So to be honest with you, I get the majority of my fats from animal fat.
Yeah.
Right. Like I said, like you kind of mentioned earlier, grass-fed butter, which is a small part of mine, but most of mine comes in the form of the fat associated with my protein sources, like ground beef, like maybe pork or chicken thighs, things like that. So when you're looking at animal fats, just in particular, you want to be aware of just a few things, right? You want to have something that's minimally processed,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something that's easily digestible,
Mhm.
And it sits well with you, because what sits well with you, what sits well with me may be a little bit different. And then what's highly stable, right? So like a stable fat is going to create a stable cell. It's going to create a stable cell structure, better, more optimized function, if you will. So again, we're talking about fatty meats, like um, maybe 90% or fattier, ground meat, which I eat 93 or 96 a lot of times too. Nothing wrong with that. Chicken thighs, all cuts of steak like New York strips, rib eyes, things like that. So that's where I get a lot of my essential fats from. And that's what people have to remember, is the reason they are essential is because there's nutrient density within fat, right? So fat doesn't make you fat. In fact, it probably makes you healthier if you keep it within a certain range for your goals.
Yeah, and that's another thing. A lot of people are almost afraid of fats because they associate fat with body fat and they think it's the same thing, when in all reality, dietary fat and body fat are not equal. One does not equal the other, right? It's not an overconsumption, or I'm sorry, it's not carbs, it's not fats, it's not protein that are the problem, but it's an overconsumption of calories as a whole. So dietary fat, like Justin said, and like I've been saying, it's essential for your health. And body fat is not a result of eating too much of that. They are two completely different things. So like body fat is adipose tissue, and then dietary fat are lipids that we find in the foods that we eat.
Sure, absolutely. I think there's one more key distinction before we wrap this up that we need to make is one thing that's closely associated with fats is cholesterol, right? And
Yep.
a lot of people get a little bit worked up about, like, oh, let's take eggs, for example. On the package, says it has a high amount of dietary cholesterol in it. Well, you got to understand dietary cholesterol and like LDL cholesterol that you read on a blood panel, for example, are two different things,
Mm-hmm.
right? They do have interaction, like there is a crossover there, but it's not the exact same thing. It's not like you eat 2 eggs and you're going to instantly see that translate into cholesterol levels on a blood panel, right? In fact, cholesterol is a precursor to sex hormones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of raw material in dietary cholesterol that is used for hormonal production. So super, super important for everybody, right? Unless you have some type of specific doctor diagnosed, so to speak, issue with cholesterols or high blood pressure, things like that. There may be a few things you need to watch out for, but in general, for the larger amount of the normal general population, dieter out there, I would say, we don't want to be afraid of fats. Like you said, we want to be mindful of where we get them from, right? Like you said, grass-fed sources of butter, animal fats, maybe some good yogurts and cottage cheeses and stuff like that. But other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this was a great talk, and I hope that everybody learned something. Guys, if you have any questions, put them down in the comments below. But other than that, we will see you guys next week on another 10-minute talk.
Absolutely. See ya.